Okay, shall we start? Sorry, I made myself just now. Okay, welcome everyone to Women Who Code second workshop for data track. So this round is the first workshop that we're going to have, which is a data analysis with Excel. So prior to the event, I suppose we have sent out the data sample data set that you will need it throughout the workshop. So I hope you all have already downloaded. If not, we will be posting the file up in the group chat. So make sure you just download it. Yeah. So a bit of background on a Women Who Code. Women Who Code is actually founded in San Francisco back in 2004, if I didn't mistaken. And then it was founded in Kuala Lumpur in 2014. And it's been a few years since we are around, right? So we have a group of, we have a community which will be managing a few tracks. So in Women Who Code, we usually have software engineering tracks, we have data tracks, we have product tracks right now. And recently, we just started a new track called cybersecurity. So we will be having a different workshop and events moving in the next few months. And then moving forward for the data track that you are in, which you are in today, you will be meeting our organizing team. Waishin, can you go to the next page? Another one, please. Yeah, so this is a event organizing team. We have you have me, Brianna here, which is the director of Women Who Code, and we have Game, Yvonne, Mavis, and Waishin here. And today we also have our community members, which is Daphne and Jessica, helping us to be the facilitators. Also, we managed to get a few volunteers that's going to be the facilitators of the day. It would be Michelle, Chao Ying, and Jenny. Yeah, so next slide, please. Okay, so a bit of briefing on the agenda. We will be starting with introducing the facilitators, which have done Women Who Code, and also later on I'll be introducing our speaker of the day, who will be running the workshop. Then I will hand the entire session to Vivian, which is the speaker, to run the workshop. There will be a few breakout rooms in between the workshop that we will be putting you guys in. So make sure you have your mic ready or you have your laptop ready to ask the questions, right? Then facilitators will be in the breakout room to answer your questions and to help you along with the task that is given by Vivian. Next, after that, we will have a short break so that you can go to your bio break or grab or just give your mind a break, etc. Then we will come back to have a sharing sessions, which will be conducted by Waishin. She will be sharing a little bit about what else can Excel do other than the one that has been shared by Vivian, because this workshop is targeting for beginners. So what we are going to touch on is going to go all the way to the basics of Excel, and then we moved on from there slowly. So Waishin will be sharing more on the more advanced things that Excel can do, also more importantly in handling an SCSV file, right? Then after that, we will go into wrap up. So I think that's the overall agenda. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, some of the house rules that we have here, because during the workshop, we want to avoid some of the accident might happen, right, by unmuting, and we want to make sure the session goes smoothly. So we have automatically mute your mic. If let's say you have any questions, you can just raise your hand, we will unmute you, or you can type it in the chat box and Vivian will get it answered, right? But during the breakout room, we won't be limiting you all to mute the microphone. You feel free to unmute them during the breakout sessions and discuss on the task or the problem statement that has been laid out. Lastly, after the entire sessions, during the wrap-up sessions, we will be having a survey form that we really appreciate if you can help filling out and let us know how do you find the sessions, and what else are you anticipating from us, right? That will help us to understand more on how can we actually make our event better and also deliver some of the events that you might want in the future. And also, we will also have our group photo sessions. Feel free to remind me if I forgot. Please turn on your camera if you want to at the end of the sessions. Next slide, please. Okay, so introducing our speakers. Let's go to Wai Shin first. Wai Shin will be the one that is going to do the sharing sessions at the end of after Vivian's workshop. She is currently a data analyst at one of the sport retailers. And Vivian, she is currently working in Microsoft, and she will be the key speaker of the workshop today. I think I'll hand it to Vivian to introduce herself and also start the workshop. Vivian, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Brianna. All right, let me share my screen. Okay, so thanks Brianna and WWCode for organizing this Excel workshop and giving me the opportunity to host the workshop as well. So just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Vivian from Microsoft Malaysia. So currently I'm the integrated marketing manager for BizApp in Microsoft Malaysia. So prior to my current role, I was a marketing analyst who was responsible for those marketing governance process, its qualifying process, as well as providing key insights and also results from the data we collected from our marketing campaign. So, but before that, I think allow me to switch off my video as I want to optimize the internet connection for my workshop later. So, okay. All right, so before I start the session, let me bring you through the agenda for today's workshop. So for this workshop, we'll break into 3 sessions. First, we will cover some of the basic information and background of Microsoft Excel. Then we'll start off with the preparation and data cleaning, followed by data analysis with our most of the topic, which is pivot table, as well as data visualization. So as mentioned by Brianna also, throughout the entire workshop, we have a few breakout sessions for you to get hands-on on the content presented, and there will be a facilitator in each breakout room to guide you through as well. So moving on to the next slide. So what exactly is Microsoft Excel? Just to give you a brief introduction. So I believe most of the people heard of what is Excel, but do you actually know what Microsoft Excel is capable of? So Microsoft Excel has been with us for 36 years, since 1985, and we had a few versions up to date, and the latest version one, of course, is our Excel 2019. So what is Microsoft Excel? Excel is actually a spreadsheet software program, a powerful data visualization and also analysis tool. So it also allows the users to organize, format, and also calculate the data with formulas using the Excel spreadsheet system. So I would say that Excel is not the tool which is only limited to your work, but it could be a good use to your own daily life as well, such as if you want to do some budget or financial management, you could use Excel for that. Other than that, you could also build dashboard within Excel itself, and more so, you can also build games in Excel, such as Sudoku. But of course, today's session is not for games building, but it's for our data analysis workshop. So you could explore that during your own free time. And to share some of the fun facts of our Excel, so Excel has more than 1 million columns and 16,000 rows. So each of the Excel has more than 17 million cells, and each of the cells can have up to 32,767 characters, yeah, to be exact. So a final one, which is not here, you could try it on your own. It is not possible to rename a worksheet into history in Excel. So yeah, you could give it a try too. All right, so moving on to the next slide, I will be sharing some of the terminologies of Excel that we will be using. So as you can see from the screen here, this is a workbook. So workbook refers to an Excel spreadsheet that houses all of the data that you have entered, and it allows you to sort or calculate the result. So a workbook that is available to be viewed or edited by multiple users on the network is known as shared workbook. So within the workbook itself is where you find the documents, which is called worksheets or also known as spreadsheets. So you can have multiple spreadsheets in a workbook to house different data. So at the top bottom here, you can see that you can see on the screen here, will indicate of the worksheets you are currently working on. And this is also known as active worksheet or active cell or active sheet. So moving from the top, we have the file menu button, quick access tool buttons, and above the workbook itself is a section of command tabs called ribbon. So this is a ribbon tab here. And in the spreadsheet, you have rectangle block housed in a worksheet. So these are called cells. I believe that you also know that. And any data you want to enter into your worksheet must be placed in a cell. So it can be color-coded, display in text format, numbers, or results on calculation, depending on what you want to accomplish. So this is an active cell. So the active cell is the cell that is currently open for editing. And if you click on the active cell, the content will also available on the formula bar. So this is the formula bar. And it's also for you to key in the formulas that you want to use and appear for the active cell. So moving to the content here on the active cell itself, you have a field handler, which is this one, dot here. So if you hover your mouse over to the field handler, which is at the bottom right corner, your cursor will change to a cross sign. And this feature that enables you to auto-complete a list in a row or columns by simply dragging it using your mouse. And of course, you have your columns and also rows, so which also refer to how your cells are aligned. So columns are aligned vertically while the rows are aligned horizontally. And on the top here, you can see that this is a headers for columns, or we call it a columns header, which is shown in alphabetical order, while the rows header is showing you the numbers. So, all right, so these are some of the basic terminologies that we use in Excel, a very quick introduction on Excel. And now we will move on to data cleaning, which is the next topic. All right. So one of the first things that we want to do with a raw data set is to clean up the data to make sure that it is easier to understand. And before we begin with the data analysis, we need to make sure that our data is organized and makes sense. So I would say that definitely data cleaning is a very important process to ensure that our data is correct and usable. So by cleaning, we need to check for incorrect details, if there's any duplications or incomplete data within a data set or any incorrectly formatted data. So if you have incorrect data set, the analysis result will not be reliable, which will cause incorrect information and insights when you want to share with your stakeholders, right? So again, it's very important to keep our data clean to have a reliable and accurate source of insights. All right, so very quickly, I believe that you received the sample data before this workshop. So I can see that Brianna has also sent out the emails to everyone yesterday. Otherwise, you could also refer to the chat file here. So I'll give you a few minutes to get your Excel file ready. Okay, so has everyone gotten their Excel file up? Perhaps I'll wait another 2 more minutes. So this is the Excel the sample data. All right, so okay, if you have an Excel file, then you move on to the Excel workshop session. So in this session, I will bring you through some of the commonly used functions for data cleaning. I'll try to move slow, but don't worry, we will have breakout sessions later, and our facilitators can also guide you through the hands-on session, or you could also drop a note here if I'm going too fast, you want me to slow down a little. Okay, So here I have a set of sample data. So what do you need to do when you first receive a raw data? And how do you turn data into meaningful insights? So when you first receive a raw data, to begin with, we need to know what's in the Excel itself and what are the things that you are going to measure. So based on the first glance on the Excel worksheet, we know that this is a sales report for an office equipment supplier company. And perhaps they have quite a few branches in other states too. So we can see that they have Johor, they have Selangor, KL, Sabah, and etc. So I can see that products are being categorized and also with subcategories as well. So they have the date of order, order ID, customer ID, sales and profit, and also could see that they do give out discounts as well. So what can we do with the data here? So there's a lot of insight I could derive from here, but hold up, don't get too excited just yet, because we need to make sure that our data is clean and reliable for our analysis later. So before working on data cleaning, it is just my practice. I will always save a copy of the raw file as a backup and duplicate a new copy as a working file in case I need to rectify and refer to the original data later. So this is just my habit of making sure I have a backup in case I mess up with the current working file. Okay. So moving to data cleaning, there are a few things to check before moving to the analysis part. So first of all, we have to check if there are any blanks or duplicate rows. So if you have a data set which only consists of like 5 rows and 3 columns, definitely it is easy for you to eyeball the data and identify the blank and duplicate ones easily. However, if you have a data like this with hundreds and thousands of rows and columns, it will definitely take you forever to identify them each manually. So of course, there's a manual way to check on the blanks rows. So if you hover your cursor to the row header and click on the first row to highlight the data. So on your keyboard, press and hold the Shift and Control button together and press on the down arrow. So you can see that it highlights all the way down right before the first blank row. So when you thought that your data stops here, try moving it down further by continuing to hold the Shift and Control button and use the down arrow. So you can see actually you have more data down below. So this is also one of the ways to identify the blank rows by using this manual method. However, there's always a quick and easy way for Excel, right? So what are the ways of doing it? First, I'll select the columns which contains data. So select the columns here. And then on your home tab, there's a click. Sorry, there's a find and select button. So just click on it and go to special. So click on the go to special. So a pop-up box will appear. Then you select blanks because you want to remove the blanks row and hit OK. So as you can see here, the Excel has already highlighted all the blank cells. But before you delete the blank cells, ensure that only the cells you want to remove are highlighted. So if you want to remove the rows and not the individual blank cells like that, you can always deselect the cell with Control. You press on the Control button on your keyboard and click. So there you go, you deselect this cell. But in this case, I want to remove all the blank rows. So I'll just leave it like that. So once all the blank rows are highlighted, go to the Home tab, find the Delete button on your right side, which is next to the Find and Select option. So click on it and select the Delete Sheets row. So this will help you to remove the blank rows. So by doing this, all your blank cells has been removed from the Excel worksheet. So next up, upon removing the blank rows, we also want to check if there are any duplicate rows. So first of all, you need to select all the data you want to check on duplicate items. Otherwise, you can even select based on the columns itself only or the rows only. But in this case, I want to check the duplicate rows for my data here. So there's a way for you to, there's a quick access for you to select the table which contains data. So on your keyboard, just press Ctrl and A. So there you go. All your data here are being highlighted. So the next tab is on the data tools menu. So 1 second. So on your data tools menu here, you just click on it and go to this button, this icon here. This is a remove duplicate icons. So press OK to remove all your duplicate rows from your data set. As you can see here, there's an indication to show you that 5 duplicates values was found and removed. So the remaining one, you have about 2,238 unique values remains in your Excel worksheet. So just click OK. However, keep in mind that not all duplicate data has to be deleted. So in the case that we know that there wouldn't be any duplicate data, we know that there wouldn't be any duplicate data here because the orders are itemized. Each purchase by unique order ID, unique customer's ID, as well as the record. They recorded with date too. But in some circumstances, you will receive data that you will encounter duplicate data, which you need to keep. So always think twice before you're removing or deleting any data from your data set. Otherwise, of course, you could hit the undo button, but there's always a limit to Excel, which allows you to undo the entries. So after removing the duplicate and also blank rows, so next up, we will do the spell check. All right, so sometimes if the data is being entered manually, you might encounter 1 or 2 spelling errors in the file. So if you have a full data like this, it will be very difficult for you to eyeball it manually. So of course, there's a fast and easy way. So click on the spelling button, which is on your review tab. This is a review tab. And this is a spelling button. So just click on it. So a few things for you to take note when you're running a spell check. So if you select a single cell for spell check, Excel will check entire active worksheet. So if you select only multiple cells, Excel will only check the spelling for those cells that you highlighted. But in the case that you want to check the spell within the entire workbook, which is all the worksheet, you could right-click on the worksheet tab. So let me show you. You could right-click on the worksheet tab, select all sheets. So there you go. So Excel will check the spelling for the entire workbook. So in this case, I'll need to remain here. I need to check only for this Excel worksheet. So I'll just click on any cell here and click on the spelling. All right, so as you can see here, the Excel has also identified some of the spelling errors, which is technology. So there's a few buttons for you to choose from. So if the mistake is not really a mistake, you can pick one of those options here to ignore the current mistake one by one, or you can ignore all at once. Or you could also add this to dictionary so that the Excel will pick up the same word mistakes when you do the spell check next time. But in this case, I want to replace all of the changes to technology here based on the suggestion. So I can change it manually one by one, or I could also change all. So in this case, I want to select change all. So all of the technology will then be replaced with the suggested word. So there's another one show up here, which is the next occurrence. I have furniture, one spelling error here. So I want to change all. Okay, So after that, when the spell check is completed, the Excel will show you this corresponding message, which indicates that the spell check has been completed and you're good to go. So now you have all the data, duplicate data, and also blank rows removed, as well as the spell check being rectified. Okay, so in the scenario that I want to replace any characters, so we could use the replace character function. So to give it an example, I want to replace all the art to art paper. So I want to remove all this art to art paper. Yes, I can use this filter button to just click on art and manually to key the art paper and drag and drop down the columns to remove all of them. But that's also another way to do it. So go to your home tab. Under the editing group, you find this find and select options. So click on it and go to this replace. So as you can see here, you have two tabs. One is find, another one is replace. So, or alternatively, you could also use the shortcut key, which is Control F on your keyboard. So you can also see the same tab being shown here. So on the find tab, if you want to find a specific text or number, you can use the find what box. Just type in what do you want to find specifically. For instance, I want to find art, then I will just type in art here. So you can find all or find next. However, in this case, I want to replace my art character to art paper. So I'll use this replace tab. So on the find what, I'll put in art. As for the replace with, I'll replace with art paper. Okay, so you could choose, if you want to replace the occurrence one by one, you just select the replace button. Otherwise, you can replace all at once. Just click on the replace all. So you can see that currently the data is in progress of replacing all the art to art paper. So you just let it run. And after that, you will receive this indication to tell you that everything has been replaced. So they have made 185 replacements here. And you click OK. So now all your art has been replaced with art paper. So in the case that when you want to replace a specific value with nothing, a blank cell, just type in the character you want to search. Let's say if I want to replace my art to nothing, which is a blank cell. So I just put art here, and on your replace with, just leave the value with blank and replace. So you can go by occurrence to check all the value you want to replace, or you can replace everything at once by clicking replace all, which is the same. All right. Okay, so next up, if you're the one who is creating the template for data entry, you can create drop-down value by limiting the data entries options in cell to allow the users only select based on your options you've created. So this is where we will use data validation tool. So by doing this, you have the control over the data entry to minimize any spelling errors, or if you want to limit your cells to only to a specific numbers, you could do that in your Excel too. So to give an example, I want to create a drop-down list for state. So first thing first, you need to create a new Excel. For me, I will create a new Excel worksheet to type in the entries I want to appear in the drop-down list. So I'll just create a new worksheet by simply clicking on this plus sign here. So I have my worksheet here. I'll just give this a title indicating state. So I wouldn't be in putting in all the states here. I'll just give an example. So I'll use Johor, Selangor, and also maybe KL. So this is the entries I want to use in my drop-down list. I'll rename this as value. Okay, so these are the values. So back to your order. On these states, because this is the columns that I want to indicate, I want to use this data validation tool. So I'll just highlight basically clicking on these column headers here. Okay, and then go to your data ribbon tab. You can find the data validation tool in this icon. So this is the data validation tool. So just select the data validation. As you can see here, there's a few validation criteria for you to choose on. So if you want to limit the entries to only whole number, you could select the whole number, decimal place, list, that date, time, text, or you could even customize it. So in this case, I want to limit to a certain job based on my drop-down list value, which I inputted in my value worksheet. So I'll just click on this list. Sorry, give me 1 second. So I'll just click on the list here. Source, if I could. Yep, so that's a drop-down list. So I'll click on the list. And on my source button, I'll go to value and highlight the list which I want to the entries to limit to. So I will leave out this header because I do not want this title to be in my list of the drop-down. So as you can see here, we have this in-cell drop-down check, and if you allow the users to leave the cell empty, you could also check the ignore blank button too. So otherwise, you could also customize any input message or error alert to the users. So if I want to have a pop-up message to show the users to show them to key in the state button. So perhaps I'll just give the title as state and input message is please select one. And then you can click OK. So now you can see if I hover over to the columns here, these are the field lists that I've created. So the users can limit to the list here based on the list selection here. And the input message, if you click on the cell, it will show here state, please select one. All right, so these are the few functions for your data cleaning. We've gone through removing duplicates, blank rows, spell checks, and also data validation. So for now, I think you could also break out into your breakout rooms and try out the functions on your own, and we will regroup in this main room again after 10 minutes. So time check, we're at 2:37 now, so we'll be back at 2:47. Okay.
Thanks, Vivian.
No problem.
Vivian, I think there is a couple of questions coming from the group chat. Joyce is asking, can we know the number of blanks and duplicate?
The numbers of blank and duplicates, you have to run through first, like the pop-up button there, you have to run through first before you could get the numbers, which is shown on the pop-up button. Yep.
Okay. Right. I think before that, right, Vivian, can we recap on all the functions that you have done, and then how can like when we break into breakout room later, let's say we want to refer to some of the functions, the facilitators will be helping us to do it. Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, yep.
Sorry.
Right. Yeah. So during the breakout session, it will be the hands-on for the field function which I just presented. I could put in the Excel. I could also share out the Excel, the PowerPoint slides which I prepared. Will that be okay?
Yeah, that would be great. Okay,
right.
Let me put them into the breakout room right now, and team, if you all have any questions, we will have facilitators in that. Feel free to mute yourself and ask the questions away. Yeah. So now I've already opened up the room. Yep. Please join the group. You should get an invitation of getting into the room. So please join. And Vivian, let me just take a screen cap of this thing and then I'll post it to the breakout room here.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Let me pause the. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll
I think.
Okay, so I'll reshare the screen again. First, we went through the remove blank rows. So in order to remove blank rows, just select on the data set. You want to remove the blank rows. So on the home tab button, go all the way to your right, find and select. So there's this go to special, click on the go to special. If you go all the way down here, check the blanks here. Okay, and select OK. So as you can see here, the blanks rows are being highlighted in gray. So if you scroll down a little bit more, you can see there's a second blank rows here. So in order to delete it, just go back to this button here, delete sheet rows. Just click on that. So these are the blank rows being deleted. So if you want to find any duplicate, if you want to remove duplicate, so let me move this down. So on your data tab, go to this button, which is remove duplicates. Click on that, and these are all the buttons I want to find. So just select OK. And if you select OK, it will pop out a notice here to show you that 5 duplicate values found and removed. So just select OK. Then that's how you remove the duplicate rows. Okay. So, yep, and I think there's another question which is on data validation. So to create data validation, because I want to use a drop-down list, say I want to use a drop-down list for state, but so I want to limit that entries. So rather than putting the list here on my main worksheet, I will want to create a new new spreadsheet for me, because I want to put all my drop-down list entries here. So if I'll just give it a title state, and I want to limit the entries to these few entries only, like Johor, Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, and Sabah. So here I'll just put Johor, Kuala Lumpur, Sabah, and Selangor. Let's say these are the few. So I'll rename this as value for easy reference. And go back to my order. I'll just highlight this state. So this is the data validation icon. I'll click on the icon. So under the settings here, it allows me to choose any value, whole number, depending on which selections you want to use. So in this case, I want to limit the entries to the list which I just inputted under value. So I'll just select list, and the source is the source where I input the entries, which is back to this value options. And I select this field. If you realize that I didn't select the state because I don't want this title to be part of my list, drop-down list. That's why I didn't include that in the source here. So I'll click OK. There you go. So now the Excel workshop, the cell here only allows me to select my options based on the entries I put in values. So that's how you do the data validation drop-down list. Okay. Yep, so I think that's the 3 questions I got from room 1. I hope it is clear enough.
Any other questions from the floor?
One of the questions was when you open the Excel, we got the filter. How do we turn on a filter if we don't have it?
Oh, it's just this one. Okay. So if I want to filter the first header, so I'll just select the header, and then on your data ribbon tab, there's this filter button. So I click on the filter button. That's a filter button you can use. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. All right. So any more questions?
May I ask for the data validation, right? Is it possible to use a list not with the same Excel workbook like other files?
I think you could, but I would recommend you to put in the same Excel worksheet, because if you want to change the list, then it is easier for you to refer. So yep, you can always hide the tab here if you don't want the users to look at the value or do any necessary changes to your list. You can always hide it. So that's the few.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so I think in lieu of time, let's. Yep, sorry.
Sorry, Vivian. I got one more question from room 5. They were asking if there's a way to see the duplicates before removing them on Excel.
I think I got quite a few questions here also. But unfortunately, I don't think we could see the duplicate values. Yep, before removing them.
All right, cool. Thanks, Vivian.
No problem. All right, so I think I'll move on. So let me reshare the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so using the same Excel spreadsheet here, at least I know we'll try to do the transpose, which is transforming columns and rows. So at least once in your life, you experience putting data into columns when it should be really when it should be put in rows or the other way around. So this can be such a hassle, as it would take a tedious task to remove each and every single data into its proper place. So for instance, if I want to share the sales or the sales for this order ID 152156 on which product the customer purchased on 8th of November to my sales manager for his app reference, I'll just select this data, copy. So just shortcut key is Control C. Sorry, Control C. And I'll just show you in a new Excel worksheet to avoid any mess up here. So I'll just Control V and paste. So as you can see here, yes, I've already got this data on a new worksheet. However, with this field data, sometimes you just feel like the title should be placed in rows here. So all you need to do is copy the rows and columns you want to transpose. So copy, Control C, and click on the cell you need to put in and select the paste option, which is on, you click on the right click here. That's this paste option allows you to paste for different functions. So if you want to transpose, it will be on your font here. This icon, this is a transpose icon. So click on that. Now you can see that the rows are here, the title are here now being transposed. So the columns are being transposed to rows and the rows to they are now at columns. So you can proceed and you're good to go to share this view to your sales manager with just a few clicks. But perhaps like for OCD person like you and me, maybe I just want to regroup these order ID cells together because they're under the same order ID. So if you want to merge these two cells together, simply by just highlighting the cells you want to merge. Okay, so just highlight, go to the home button, and you can see that this tab, merge and center. So click on it, and then you get a pop-up message here. So this pop-up message here basically is, it will flag out that it will only keep the left value, which is this, the left value, and discard the other values. So just click OK. Because they are the same values, so it doesn't mind if I keep the left or the right one. So I'll just click OK. So there you go. This is how you merge two cells into one. So if you want to unmerge the cell, just simply by clicking the merge and center button again. So that's how you unmerge the cell and split them back into two columns. So I want to merge all these fields, so I'll just highlight these three. Merge and center, they will only keep the left value, so I'll just click OK. So there you go. You could copy this Excel and share this to your sales manager, or you could also copy and paste emails or Teams and share it to your sales manager. So that's how you transpose and merge these cells. But for data analysis wise, I wouldn't encourage merging the cells for your data analysis later, because you need the individual data input in the respective cells for your analysis later. So you can share this function when you're sharing the final report in Excel to your stakeholders, so that data won't be too overwhelmed. Okay, so back to the main workbook. So we'll back to order tab. So in the case that when you want to join two or more text strings into one text, so you can use concatenate function. So concatenate function allows you to combine text, numbers, dates from multiple cells into one cell. So how do you do it? Just giving you an example. So click on the cell which you want to input the consolidated cells. So just equal and type in concat, C-O-N-C-A-T, concat. So open parentheses and then select the cells which you want to merge into one cell. So I'll just select the first one just to show you. And then close parentheses and press enter. So there you go. You have all the multiple cells being consolidated into one. So that's how you combine all the data into one cell. So I'll just remove this for our next function. Okay, so next up, when I look at the order ID here, I want to split this text into different cells. So I can see that perhaps CA is one of the indicators, perhaps it's a company name, CA, and then we have the year of purchase, 2016, and this is the order ID, which I want to look at. So by doing this, I want to split the text into different columns. So how do you do this is that you select the columns which you want to split. So in this case, column A, I'll just click on the column header to select the full column A. And then on your data tab, there is this text to columns. So click on these text to columns. So in the text to columns wizard, select this delimited because I want to split the cell based on the delimiters. And then I'll click on next. So under delimiters here, I have a few options, which is tab. I want to split by semicolon, comma, or space. But in this case, I want to split by this hyphen. So which is others. I'll just select others. And on this, I'll just put in the hyphen. Then down below here, you can see from the preview showing how your data is splitting from your selections. Okay, so indicating 3 columns. The first column is CA, second column is the year, and the third column is order ID. And then I'll go to next. So next, this is a destination in your worksheet which you want your split data to appear. So in this case, I want my data to appear here. So I'll just select on this cell and click finish. If I scooch over to the right, so you can see now all this column A, the data in column A, they are being split into 3 columns based on the hyphen there. So I want to rename this as, let's say, perhaps store code, and then this is year, and then this is the order ID. Okay. So I want to rearrange these 3 columns back to the front. So I'll just use cut and copy. So by doing cut, I'll just select these 3 columns, highlight them. And then you can right click and use the cut button here. Otherwise, there's a shortcut key for you to do that, which is Control X. So click on Control X and then go back to the front. I want to insert after column A. So I have to move to column B. So because it is before column B, so I'll just highlight column B, right click on the header and select Insert Cut Cells. So you can see now my cells are being moved from here to front view. Okay, so for me, I think I do not need this view anymore because it's currently being split into 3 columns. So I'll just remove that column A. So I'll just right click at the column here, column header here, and delete. So just to touch up and do the formatting a little bit, I'll just bold this text. So you can go to your home button and bold it. That's a header. Okay, so next up, we need to make sure that our data is formatted correctly. So on your home button ribbon tab, you have this quick access tool for your formatting tool. So as you can see here, we need to complete a few data formatting for this spreadsheet. We need to format date. So as you can see, the current one is under general, which is not formatted as date. And then I want to format sales and profit to currency or accounting. So let me do that. I'll select order date. So to highlight the full entire column, just click on the column header for column D. So under dates here, you have the options of putting it as a short date or long date. So if long date, it will appear like that. But in this case, I only want it to be as a short date format. So there you go. I'll select short date. And then for sales, I want to use currency. So I'll go back to the same formatting quick access tool. I'll select currency. So there you go. I have my currency being placed here. And for profit, I also want to use as currency. So I'll just reset this as currency. So for discount, I want to look at the discount rate as percentage. So that's this percentage button here. Just click on this percentage button, then it will automatically change all this to percentage view. So as you realize that for currency and accounting, right? For currency, right, there's another options for accounting too, which is also pretty much same as currency. So the currency format places a dollar sign right next to the number. But for accounting format, if I click here, the accounting format aligns the dollar signs at the left and display the numbers on your right. And of course, and also if there's any zero value, which is 0 ringgit and counter, if I try this 0, this will become dash. But actually it is 0. So it depends. It is up to you if you want to use accounting or currency. Okay, so let me put this back to currency. Okay, so after that, you could also select the decimal place you want. So in this case, I want to remain this as 2 decimal place to check the price down to cents. But if you want to round up to full figure, simply by just clicking this sign here, this 2 arrow to increase decimal place or to reduce the decimal place. So if I want to remain as 1 decimal place, just click 1 time. If I want to remove both, then just click twice. Then the number will automatically round up. So, but in this case, I want to remain as 2. So I'll just keep it as per. Okay. So as you can see that there's a wide range of formatting for you to choose from here. Otherwise, there's also more advanced formatting for you to choose from, which is you click on the cell, right click, and go to this format cells. So there's more functions for you to go to play with. You could also try to explore this on your own. Yep. So good formatting is really important because it will help to enhance your data in several ways and also help to present your data correctly, which will give more value to your data. All right, so that's on data formatting. And now we'll move on to Excel table. So another amazing function to prep for data analysis is Excel table. So it was first introduced in 2007, and Excel, I think it contains really amazing features that will change you how you work with your data. So for the Excel table, they have many features such as sorting, filtering, and that will also help you to organize the view of your data. So how to change your file to table? So there are 2 ways. One is go to this create table, insert. Okay, so insert and then select table. So as you can see here, it automatically pick up all the data within the range as your table. So an alternative way for you to do is control on your keyboard, Control T. So that's also another shortcut way for you to create a table immediately. And if your table has a header, check this box. Because my table has a headers as a descriptive in cells, so I'll just check this box and click OK. So you can see that currently the raw data has been transformed to table. So if you want to change the table design, just select any cell within the table. At your table design, you can see that there's a number of designs for you to choose. So perhaps I'll go with this design, or yeah, perhaps I'll go with this design. All right, so we also have some headers are highlighted in yellow because the raw data were being highlighted in yellow. So but I'll do a little bit of touch up here. So I'll just select the first column because it's being highlighted as yellow. So I don't want the highlights here. So go to the fill color, home button, fill color, and no fill. And then I want to change the text to black, to white, so it's more accessible. So now it is much more tidier. Okay, so each table of the worksheet or a workbook has also a unique table name, which is displayed on the left side of your table design. So table design ribbon tab on the left, this is your table name. Okay, so I'll just rename this as sales order. Sales order. Okay, next thing you can see in the table here is the drop down button on the header. So this is the filter button. So it can help to sort your data for you to filter the value you want to view. You can check here. So you have this filter button you could filter from, the order ID. So if date, you can see here, it automatically group up the years. If you want to drill down further, you click on the plus sign to expand it. Or if you want to drill down even further, you could click on this plus sign to track down to days. So there's also a search button here for you to search up the value you want to filter. Okay, so let me try to check one filter. This is the filter. So if I want to clear the filter, just click on the same filter button, and there's this clear filter from order ID. Just click on that. So the filters are being cleared now. Okay. So if you scroll down your worksheet, you can see that the row title will automatically change to the column header. So this will also make it easier for you to refer rather than scrolling up and down just to get the sense of your title. So the titles are here. And besides that, if your data is in a table format, it will also automatically expand. How so? So let's say if I want to add a column to your right table. So on your right table here, I'll just type anything like remark. If I press enter, you can see that it automatically expands your table to the right. So likewise, this works for the row too. So another amazing feature for Excel table is to add a total row. So where is it? It's under your table design ribbon tab. Check this box, total row. So by checking this box, if I squish over to right, it will automatically sum up the value here. So because I have a remark here, so let me remove this. Remark. Yep, so it will automatically sum up the table here if I check the box. So that's a drop down. I could also change the functions that I want to use. If I want to get the average of profit, then I'll just go with average. Otherwise, if I want to count, then I'll just go with count. But in this case, if I want to sum out the value, I'll just use sum value. Likewise to the rest of the drop-down list. You can also play around with that as well. Okay, so what is the benefit of these total rows is that if you filter your data, it will also automatically change based on the visible cells only. So if I filter year 2014, let's say, if I click on drop down button, select 2014 and click OK, I can see that the value here has been changed to only view the profit of 2014. All right, so let me clear the filter from here. Okay, so why is it important to change your data in Excel table? This is because Excel table also integrates with your pivot tables and also chart, which is during the analysis part. So if you make any changes to the table, it will automatically update it in the pivot table too. So if your data is not in table format and you've added new rows or new columns, you need to reselect the data range for your pivot table as well. So if you have the Excel table in format, so you just need to hit the refresh button every time you update any value. So, but for that, I think we'll cover a little bit more during our pivot table part. So I'll show you what does it mean. So this will also help you to avoid any missing data and also save time, of course. So same goes to the chart, they are integrated with table. So if there's any update, then it will automatically update if the new data is added to the table. Okay, so I think I've covered quite a few. So these are the few functions. And before we move on to the analysis part, so let's break into the breakout room for hands-on session. And if you have more time, try to play around with the Excel table and explore some of the features too. Okay, so for this breakout session, let's have a 10 minutes breakout sessions, and time check, we are at 3:20, so we'll be back in this main room at 3:30 p.m.
Okay, thanks, Vivian.
Okay.
So now we are breaking you guys back to the almost the same breakout room. We might have more people in the room as there are plenty of people joined later on. Okay, I will then break you all in the room right now. I think to refresh on the topics that I have covered, right? Thanks, Waishin. It would be transpose, right? Merge, slash, or split columns, concatenate, right? Split text into columns for date formatting, and also the Excel table. So in the breakout room, if you have any questions, you can just ask our facilitators. Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so I think we have almost everyone back to the lobby now. And let me do a quick summary and closing before we move on to the data analysis part. So I hope you had a chance to try out the functions in the breakout rooms and manage to explore some of the features in Excel table too. So to sum up before we move on to the next session, let's summarize the function we did just now. So we've learned how to remove blanks and duplicate rows. So we also did spell check, replace characters with the find and replace functions, data validation, which is creating the drop-down value, transpose, which is transforming the columns to rows or rows to columns, merge or split cell, concatenate, which is combining multiple texts into one cell, and also split them into different columns. So data formatting as well as Excel table. So these are the few basic functions we need for data cleaning. And now let's move on to our data analysis. So after completing your data check, we can move on to data analysis already. So just to share, analysis also sometimes referred to exploratory data analysis, which is also EDA. This is when you use statistical methods and data visualizations to cover interesting characteristics and also patterns in the data. So sometimes simple plots of raw data can also reveal a very important insight that will help to dictate the direction for the project, or at least provide critical insights that can be really useful when you're interpreting the result of your project. And of course, ultimately draw a very useful conclusions with your data too. So before we start with your data analysis, you need to know what are you going to measure and what is the main purpose of you doing this analysis. Is this a monthly or annual sales report for your sales manager, or you just want to show the total sales profit by comparison between states to your stakeholders too? So it is very important for you to identify what are you going to measure and what kind of insights you want to derive from. All right, so now let's move on back to our Microsoft Excel. Let me reshare my screen. Okay, so now that you have a clean and organized data, we can begin with the analysis. So on the second tab here, formulas for analysis, you'll find that these are the few frequently used formulas for data analysis. So pretty straightforward. If you want to find the minimum value on your formula bar, just type in equal, minimum, and the range of numbers you want to read. Same goes to other formula like maximum, average, and also sum. So I couldn't cover everything in Excel today, so I've shortlisted a few frequently used formulas. So here in this session, we'll go through all these individually. So as spoken, I think min is pretty easy. So just on your formula bar top here, types equal, min, open parentheses. So I want to know the minimum of my order, sales in my order. So I go back to order. This is the range that I want to read. So on the column header here, I'll just select sales and then close parentheses and press enter. So there you go. This is my minimum sales order I got. So in X for maximum, it is actually the same. So just on the formula bar, type in max, open parentheses. If I want to find the maximum of sales value, highlight sales, then close parentheses, enter. So same goes to average, equal average, open parentheses, back to your order, highlight the range you want to read, close parentheses, and press enter. So these are the few results I got from. So if you realize that they are not in any formatted, so as during the last session, you could also use this formatting tool to change it. Currency, or you could also use this, which is accounting format. You could also click on that. So I'll just keep as accounting format in this case. So these are the few values. Okay, so here we have some if or some ifs with the S. So I will not go through some because I think some is pretty much the same, just equal some and then go to the range you want to highlight and then you get your data. So some ifs here is when you want to sum up the criteria based on certain criteria. So on my formula bar, you just put equal sum if. So we go with sum if first, not the one with S. So as you can see, there are two arguments, open parenthesis, sorry. So there are few arguments here, three arguments. So first one is the range that you want to apply the criteria against. Second argument is the criteria you want to use to determine which cells to add. And the third one is the range of cells you want to sum them together. So let's give it a try. If I want to find out the total profit of Johor, so I'll just put sum if. So the first range is the criteria range. So the criteria range, my Johor, if I go back to the raw data, which is order, Johor is under state. So I'll just select this column. I highlight this column by clicking on the column header for state. So highlight this and then comma. Secondly is the criteria that you want to use, which is Johor. So I have Johor here. So I'll just click on Johor. I'll read Johor. And the third comma, and then the third argument is the value that you want to sum up, which is the range that you want to sum up with, which is, in this case, it's sales. So I'll highlight sales. And then the third argument is the value that you want to sum up with, which is the range that you want to sum up with, which is, in this case, it's sales. So I'll highlight sales. And then the third argument is the value that you want to sum up with, which is the range that you want to sum up with, which is, in this case, it's sales. As usual, just click on the column header and you highlight the whole column. Close parentheses and enter. So there you go. I'll change the data formatting. So there you go. I know that my total sales of Johor is 20,000. What if I have multiple criteria? So if you have multiple criteria, you can use some ifs, the one with S. So on your formula bar, equal some if with the S, open parentheses. So you can see here there are few more arguments as compared to some if. So a little bit different here is that the sum range, the range which you want to sum up or value is at the first argument, then followed by the different criteria. So we have criteria 1, criteria 2, and etc. So if you go to criteria always, you just need to remember, you select the criteria range and then comma followed by the criteria you want. So in this case, let's try if I want to know what is the total profit of Johor. What is the total profit of Johor in year 2014? So sum range is my profit. So back to order, profit, and then comma. So I have two criteria. The first one is date Johor. Another one is year 2014. So there's two criteria here. So I'll put in the first criteria here, which is Johor. So criteria 1 is I'll have to select the range of the criteria, which is date, highlight it, comma, and then select Johor. Okay, so comma, that's finished. So here you already have your criteria 1 finished. And now we move on to criteria 2, which is year. So just highlight the header and then comma, year 2014. And then close parentheses. So there you go. This is the total profit for Johor in year 2014. Okay. So next, count if and count ifs. So pretty much the same as sum if. If you have one criteria, just use the one without S. If you have multiple criteria, just use the one with S. So the difference is that the sum formula helps you to total up the numbers you want to measure. However, the count formula is to count the cells that match against the criteria rather than summing them up. So if I want to count how many orders were made for bookcases, so to begin with, on your formula bar, you type equal count if, open parentheses. So you can see there's two arguments. So the first one is the range of cell you want to count. And the second argument is the criteria you use to determine which cells you want to count. So for the range of cell argument, because I want to know the bookcases, how many bookcases? So order, I want to highlight this subcategory to count how many bookcases here, and then comma, and then the criteria is bookcases. Then close parentheses and press enter. So I know that total I have 56 bookcases order based on this data I have. So if I want to know how many bookcases in Johor was sold, so here I have two criteria. One is bookcases, another one is Johor. So therefore we need to use this count if, the one with S. So on your formula bar, equal count if with S, open parentheses. So we can see here there's a few. The first one is the criteria range, and the second one is based on which criteria. So here we have two criteria. The first one is Johor, another one is bookcases. So the first criteria, Johor, select the criteria range. Always remember, start with the range, select criteria range, comma, Johor, and then comma. So after you finish your first criteria input, let's go to the second one, which is bookcases. So bookcases is under subcategory. So I'll highlight this bookcases category, comma, bookcases, and then close parentheses. Press enter. So I know that there's only one bookcases sold in Johor based on the data I received. Okay, so that's the count if and sum if function. So moving down here, we have this if error. So if error is something that I think any analyst who actively presents data will take advantage of. So if you are looking for a specific text and value in a data set that won't return to a match and cause an error in the error statement in the cell, such as NA or value or divided by 0. And the consequence here is that if you are trying to sum up the numbers, there's going to be a lot of issues as it will flag out the errors in your total sum value rather than giving you the numbers. So therefore, you can use if error to replace errors with any text or value. So let's say if I want to divide, so let's say go back to our order. If I want to divide the sales by quantity, so let me do some changes here. Just change this quantity to 0, just to show you. So if I want to divide by quantity on a blank cell equal sales divide, which is this slash 0 by quantity. So as you can see here, that this error statement appears saying that it is divided by 0. So to omit this error, you can return this error to a specific text or a specific value. So in this case, I want to return the error to 0. So how to do this? On your formula bar, I'll just go to the next one. On your formula bar, click, type in equal if error, open parentheses. So you can see that we have 2 arguments here. So first one is the value that you input, and the second argument is the text or the value you want the cell to return. So the value I want to input here is sales divide by quantity, and then comma, and I want the value returned to 0. So I'll just put 0. Close parentheses and press enter. As you can see here, if I divide the number by 0, it will not show this error statement. It will change this error statement to 0. All right, so this is especially helpful when you want to sum up the numbers. Okay, I'll remove that and back to this. Okay, so moving back to our formulas for analysis tab, we have the VLOOKUP function. So I think VLOOKUP function is a very useful and most recognizable data analysis function because last time I used to do this VLOOKUP almost every single day to look up for values. So as an Excel user, you probably need to like sort of marry the data together at some point. So for instance, like your finance department might know how much each product costs, but the shipping department can only provide you the total units that has been shipped out rather than the actual cost for each product. So if the shipping department would like to know the cost for order, they can call, like, of course, they can call the finance department to provide the info, of course. But if you're an analyst for the department, you can cross-check the 2 Excel files to get information. But that will take you forever if you're looking for thousands of orders, right? So in these circumstances, VLOOKUP is a perfect function for you to look up the value you want from the other Excel workbook, or even if it is under the same same workbook Excel sheet here. So just giving you an example, in this data set, if I want to find the customer ID of this order number, I can use VLOOKUP function. So You might also think that I could just simply use the filter function to find the order ID. However, imagine if you were to look up for a whole set of data with hundreds and thousands of rows. I think definitely VLOOKUP is a perfect function for you. And also another thing to note that is you need to keep in mind that the VLOOKUP criteria range must come before the input value. So let me show you how to do this. To begin with, so this is a customer ID one I want to look up. So on your formula bar, just put equal VLOOKUP, open parentheses. So as you can see here, it looks complicated, but actually it's not. So we have a few arguments. The first argument is the value you want to look up. Okay, so in this case, this is the order number. So this is the value I want to look up. And then the second one is a table array, which I need to select from the table that I'm going to use later, which I will show in a bit. And the next one is which column you want to get the data from. Okay, so VLOOKUP. So this is the value I want to look up, order number. So I'll click on that, comma. So the next argument is table array. So I want to look up the customer number, the customer ID for this customer ID, this order ID for this customer ID. So I'll select C, which is the order ID to customer ID, and then comma. So then I need to start counting from the beginning of the table that you highlighted on which value that I want it to input. So I need to start counting from the table which I highlighted, which is from order ID. So 1, 2, 3. So customer ID is at the third column. So I'll put 3 and then comma. So, and currently I'm at this true or false value. So for true, if you want to find an approximate match, while false is to find an exact match. So in this case, I want to find an exact match. So I'll just put false. However, to make it easier, in Excel, you could also use 0 to represent false statement. So rather than typing in the full false, you can also replace that with 0. Close and then enter. So there you go. This is the customer ID for this order number. So that's how you use VLOOKUP. Okay, so these are the few frequently used formulas for analysis. So now I think we can break into the groups for another 10 minutes to try out all the formulas here and see if you could manage to get the answers. And before you move on to your breakout sessions, I'll leave you with a problem statement. You can use the formulas I just presented to find out the answer for the problem statement. So let me stop sharing this and move on back to my Excel. Okay, oops. So the first problem statement for this frequently used formulas is what is the total sales of office supplies in year 2016? So, okay, now you can go into a breakout room and try to work around and play around with the formulas. And also when you're back, we can also discuss on the answer.
Thanks, Vivian. I will now break you all into the breakout room. It's 10 minutes from now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we have everyone back here. So welcome back to the main room. And I hope that you get a chance to try all the formulas. So once you've mastered the formula I've just shown you, you can start to mix and match around with the formulas too, like using if error with VLOOKUP. So if the lookup value is NA, you can return to 0 or not match as text. So back to our problem statement, what is the total sales of office supplies in year 2016? So does anyone want to give it a try to share and demo their answer here? Anyone? So, okay, otherwise I'll just share the answer with you. Okay, so what is the total sales of office supply in year 2016? So here we will use some if with the as formula, some ifs. So here we can identify two criteria. So one is the office supplies, another one is year 2016. So how do you do that is on your formula bar, put equal, some ifs, open parentheses. So the sum range is sales. So I'll just select sales, comma. My first criteria is office supply. So I know that office supply is under my category range here. So I'll select the range. Okay, select the range and then I'll just put comma and office supply. So that is a criteria I want to match against. So that's the first criteria done. So second criteria is year 2016. So I have my year here at column B. So highlight the full column B, comma, and then 2016. So close parentheses and enter. So there you go. This is a total sales of office supply in 2016, which is 55,000, about 54,000 RM. Okay. All right, so let me remove this one. Okay, so move on to the next part, which is conditioning format. So before we move on to data visualization with graphs and charts, what if we want to visualize our data within the cells here, right here? So we have this function called conditional formatting. So for conditional formatting in Excel also enables you an alternate option to visualize your data within the dataset itself. So by using this function, it will automatically apply formatting, like such as you want it to be color coded, you want to put in any icons, or if you want it to be in data bars. So for instance, if to highlight the cells with colors based on the criteria provided, to do this, you need to create a conditional formatting rule. So let's say if you want to check the cells which are greater than 400, so of course I can look at numbers individually by using the drop-down button, the filter button here. But it will be easier for me to highlight and look at them all at once. So by doing this, you can use conditional formatting rule. All you need to do is you highlight the range that you want to format. So in this case, I will highlight sales. So click on the column header to highlight the full columns of sales. Then on your home tab, under this style group, click on the conditional formatting. That's an arrow drop down arrow here. So in this case, I will select this, highlight cells rules, which is greater than. So I want to find the sales which is greater than 400. So in the sales value here, I'll put 400. And then I have the options here to choose if I want the cell to fill with red color, yellow, or green. So in this case, I want it to be a green fill. Then I'll go with this option and press OK. So as you can see here, all those values that are greater than 400, they are being highlighted in green. So you can see which are the values here, or you could also filter by color and select this color filter, cell color, which is in light green. So I know that all these values here, the sales here, they are greater than 400. Okay, so let me clear the filters from sales. All right, so next, let's look at some of the conditional formatting presets. So we'll go back to the conditional formatting here to function. As you can see, we have 3 preset format, which is data bars, color, scales, and also icon sets. So if you mouse over to each of the options here, you can check the menu. So first of all, the data bars is more like data graphs. So the higher the value, the longer the bar within the cell itself. The next one is color scales. So color scale will change the background of your cells color based on the value which you want to apply the rule for. While icon sets, they have different indicators and symbols. So we have quite a few styles here depending on which one you think is easier to read. We have directional, we have shapes, we have indicators, as well as rating. So with the icon set, we can see which order is at a higher value and which is just about the average and which is at the lower value based on the coding here. So if you want to clear any rules on the conditional formatting, just go to these clear rules. So here you can choose to clear the rules from the selected cells only, the entire Excel workbook, the entire Excel worksheet, sorry, or clear the rules from this table. Okay, so this is the conditional formatting. So to deep dive a little bit further, if I want to edit the rule, so I'll just highlight on the same conditional formatting options, you will see this manage rules. So click on that and let's try with the color scale. So I'll select this and I want to manage the rule for my selection. So click on the manage rules, then you will pop up this button, the rules manager. So I'll select the options here which I want to edit the rule for. So you can see here, this is all the rules I can manage. So if I want the cell value to highlight the value which is greater than 400, I could do that. Or if I want to change to 500, I could also do 500. Otherwise, there's a lot of different selections here. If I only want to select the cell value between, say, 500 to 1000, you could also do that. Otherwise, you could also format the colors you want to input. So the font, I want this to change to black. So I'll go back to black. And for the cell fill, I think it is fine to leave it as per the color. So, okay. And then I'll just click OK and apply, click on the apply button to apply the rules to your selection, to the current selection. Okay. So now you can see that they only highlighted the value between 500 to 1000. So this is how you manage your rule and change your conditional formatting rule within the cell or the worksheet itself. So yep, these are some features of the conditional formatting. I think it is especially useful to have when you want to have a quick glance to spot the patterns within the worksheet by formatting the cell to visualize the data. So in this case, like because we are only doing one sales formatting, if I want to do profit, yes, I could do that too. Or if there's a different criteria on top, like if I want to identify which cell list has the highest sale, which is greater than 400, perhaps I have the seller's name here and also the sales number here. If I have the color coded there, it is very easy for me to identify which sellers they are doing better. Okay, so now after this conditional formatting, now let's deep dive even further to our data analysis with our most loved topic, which is pivot tables. So if you are someone who analyzes a large set of lists and data, pivot table is definitely something that is going to benefit to you. And if you know how to use pivot tables, I think it will change the way you use Excel for sure. So I would say that pivot table is one of the most powerful features in Excel, which allows you to analyze a large set of data quickly, easily, and also in an intuitive way. All right, so let's get started. So on the top bar here, under Insert Ribbon tab, you will notice this option says Pivot Table. So if you realize that there's also another option here showing Recommended Pivot Table. So this Excel is recommending different ways to pivot my data into. So I can go through some of the preset tables here to select the options I want to view based on the recommended pivot tables. But in today's session, I want to show you how to build your pivot table from scratch. So select pivot table. So as you can see here, it has already automatically select the table range. So in this case, which is my sales order. And I can choose where I want to put my pivot table. It's either onto a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. So in this case, I want to put it in a new worksheet because I don't want this to overlap with my current data set here. So check new worksheet and OK. So this is the pivot table view right here. On the right-hand side, we have the pivot table fields. So this is the pivot table fields. And on the top here, we have the data column titles from your table. Then at the bottom here, we have 4 options. So we have filters, we have columns, rows, and values. So filter is if you want to filter the data by any one of these fields, then I'll put the data to these filter options. So rows, which is going down the sheet, and columns, which is aligned to the vertically across the sheet. And of course, you have your values here, which is usually for numbers. So how do you get started with pivot table? First of all, you need to know what kind of insights you want to derive from the table and what kind of information you want to know when you are doing this pivot table. So for instance, if I want to know what is the total profit by category. So in my rows here, I want to see my category, total profit. So I want to see the category list and I want to see the sum of profit under this value. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just drag and drop. I'll just look for my category options, which is this. Click on the category, drag and drop to your rows. So as you can see here, it already automatically appears on the rows here. So I want to see what is the sum of my profit. So likewise, click on profit, drag and drop to your values. Okay, so as you can see here, I have category and also profit. So this is a profit by categories. So this is the default title. If you want to change the title, you can just double click and then change the title. So here I'll rename it as category. Okay, and I'll just remain this as sum of profit. So if you want to drill down even further to subcategory, so this is the view by category only. If you want to drill down further to subcategory, you could also go to your Excel field here or the title field, drag the subcategory and place after category. So there you go. Now you can see the sum of profit by furnitures and also by subcategory. So if you want to expand and collapse the subcategory, you could simply click on this button, expand, and also like that. Otherwise, if you want to expand and also to collapse all the fields together, you could also go to this pivot table analyze. There's this tool button. You can select these two, expand and collapse the button here all together at once. Okay. So if I want to drill down even further, I want to know the profit by year. So, and I want to show it here, profit by year. So on my title field here, I'll go to year and drag this year to columns. So now you can see that I have my profit by year and by category with subcategory too. Okay. So next, you also can change the type of calculation you want to use. So in order to do that, there's a drop-down button at the value. So this is a drop-down button. Click on the drop-down button, select value field settings. So currently my data here is showing the total profit, which is the sum value. If I only want to know the count or average, I could change it here. So let's say if I want to know the count of then I'll just change count and then select OK. So here you can see that this is a total count of order by different category. It is all right if I just remain the profits here because if I use count, the value that we are counting is based on the cells with data. So just to cross-check, if you want to cross-check, you also could draw down this order ID, move this back. So order ID, and then if I want to go back to this value setting, count. So actually they got the same count too. All right, so the type of calculation here is actually by default. So if it is a number, you put it to a value, it will automatically sum up the numbers for you. So if you want to change anything, you can use this value setting, which I have just shown just now. So if you use value, usually a default calculation is count, but if there's no number can be summed, because there's no number can be summed up from text form. So if you pull any text, let's say if you pull text like state to value, so the default setting is actually count, because the pivot table here wouldn't be reading any numbers which you can sum in text form. Okay, so let me pull this back because I want to rename my profit here. Profit back to my values. Okay, so this is the total sum of my profit. All right, so I could also use filter in my pivot table too. So which is this. Let me drag this state to filter. So as you can see here, this will be shown on the top rows of my Excel file. So I can filter based on the criteria. If I want to know the details for Johor, then I'll just click and select filter for Johor only. So once I click on the Johor selection, you can see that this pivot table automatically change and remains the data for Johor only. So if I want to check for Kuala Lumpur, then Kuala Lumpur, okay. So if I want to filter multiple items, so you can check this button. I want to know Kuala Lumpur and let's say Selangor. So I'll just check this toolbox, click OK. So this is the data for both, for the combination of Selangor and also Kuala Lumpur. Okay, so let me select all. Okay, back to default. So just like any other table, you can select the table design from Design tab. So click on any of the cell, go to our Design ribbon tab. So that's also a table layout for you to choose. You can choose any design you want. So let's stick with this. Okay, so on your left here, you can choose that if you want your your subtotals to be placed on the top or bottom of the group. So let me try to change. If you want to show on the bottom of the group, the subtitle here is now showing at the bottom of the group. If I do not want to show any subtotals, I'll just click on the do not show subtotals. Okay, so next one is the grand total. So you, likewise, you can check for, you can on for rows and columns or off for both, or you could also even select for rows only, or you want it for columns only. So in this case, I want to on for rows and columns. Okay, so next up here is the report layout. If you want to show your report in compact form, which is the current view, it can remain as per. If you want to show this in an outline form, so this is the outline form we are showing. And this is a tabular form, depending on how you want to show your data. So here you can select if you want to repeat all item labels. So it's like that, to repeat all the item labels, but in this case, I do not want to repeat any item labels, so I'll just check this button. So last but not least, you can insert blank line after each item, or you can also remove blank line after each item. So here you could also play around with the layout formatting. If you want to have a banded rows, if you don't want, then you just uncheck this, or you want to have the banded columns. Okay. So on the pivot table analyze tab here, you have two very important buttons. So first one is the refresh button. Another one is a change data source buttons. So if you have any updates to your raw data, you need to remember, you need to hit the refresh button to update the data in your pivot table. So every time if there's any changes to your raw data which is ordered, you need to hit the refresh button to capture the data in your pivot table. So if you want to change the source of your data, so click on the change data source and then reselect the data source you want. So in this case, I'll just remain this, so I'm not changing it anyway. Okay, so in this case, that if your data source is not in a table formatting, then you need to change the data source again if you added any rows or columns to your data. So if you could recall, I mentioned in the Excel table, FL table content, because Excel table integrates with your pivot table. So if your data source is in table, then you do not need to reselect the whole data source again if you added new rows or columns, because it will be automatically captured as part of the table. So let's try to add new columns. So back to our order, and I'll show you. So if I add, if I add a remark, you automatically expand the column. If I go back to my pivot table, under the pivot table analyze button, click refresh. So you can see that my remark button, my remark column is now being reflected in this table. So you do not need to reselect the data source again. Okay, so as you move a little bit further to your left, you can see that that's this insert slicer and also insert timeline for your pivot table too. So the slicer is just like an alternate option for you to filter a function, whereas for the timeline, clearly says that is for you to select the timeline you want to view in your data. So by using this timeline slicer, you feel like you're building a mini dashboard within your Excel itself. So let's go ahead and select this insert timeline. So there's only one timeline I can insert, which is order date. Okay, let me pull this over and back to the pivot table analyze tab. I want to insert slicer. So here I want to see, I want to filter by state and by category, let's say state and category. So I'll just check these two boxes. Okay, I'll move this over. So there you can see that we have our timeline, our slicers here. So because I can see that we have category, which I can remove from here because I only want to see my subcategory. So I'll just drag and drop this back to my field. All right, so now I have the slices of category and state, and also the timeline, which is this order date. So for this order date timeline, I can choose, I want to view by years, by quarter, by days, or by month. So in this case, if I want to go by years, then I'll just choose years. So as you can see, I'm selecting the different filter for years. My table is constantly changing based on the filtering I'm inputting here. So if I want to know the data for 2016, especially for furniture, I'll select 2016 under category, select furniture. And if I want to drill down even further to state, I can, let's say, if Johor. So you can see that my pivot table has changed the view for Johor, furniture, and 2016 as a filter. So if I want to deselect all this filter, just click on this button so that you can deselect all of them. So let me deselect everything. Okay. So there it goes. My filter has gone now. Everything's back to default. And I also can format my pivot table like how we did in previous session. So if I want to format this as accounting or a currency, I can just click on this button like that. Okay, so now we can break into another breakout rooms for you to get hands-on on the conditional formatting and pivot table. So I think we can have slightly longer breakout because we have pivot table here as I want you to explore more functions. And so during your breakout rooms, you could also try to find out the next problem statement. So let me pull out the next problem statement here. Sure. Okay, so the next problem statement is to find out what is the average sales of office supplies in year 2016 for Selangor. So, okay, now we can have 15 minutes breakout session and we'll be back in this main room at about 4:45. Yep.
Hi, Vivian. Thanks, Vivian. I think I just want to do a check. Is everyone doing okay? Are we good to go to another breakout room, or you guys would prefer to have a break? Then we can take the break up early. Can I have a response in the chat if you guys prefer to go to the breakout room now, or we can have our break earlier? We are supposed to have a break at 4:40 actually. So if you guys want to get into a breakout room now, I think it's slightly overrun. Yeah. I have some from break earlier. Okay, looks like everyone is asking for a break. Should we go for a break? Then we will come back. How long do you guys want? 5-10 minutes. Is 10 minutes good for you all? Or it's slightly too long? Any comment? If no, then we will then get back at let's come back at 4:40. Should we? 7 minutes. Let's make a start, another fresh start at 4:40. Yeah. Okay. I'll see you all at 4:40.
Razor to show us how you got the answers and also demo. I think we got one just now. Anyone from the group?
Hi everyone.
Yeah, hi.
I'll just share my screen.
Okay, perfect.
You guys could see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so as mentioned by Vivian just now, from the pivot table, we create the from the Excel table, we create the pivot table, and I have just sorted it based on the filter it based on the state, based on the year, and then under the category for the under the row, and then over here I've changed it to the average of sales, and based on that the Selangor and in year 2016 the average sales for office supplies was 96 ringgit and 79 cent. Yeah.
Yep, that's great. I think you did a very good job also. They're June, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, you got the
Thank you.
answer. Yep, so it is 96 ringgit and 79 cent. So I think also the demo was great, and yep. Okay. So the average sales of the year 2016 for Selangor is 96 and 79 cents. So if you couldn't get the answer, perhaps you could also give it a try again based on the demo which Dejun just showed us. All right. So, okay, after getting the pivot table view, we move on to data visualization. So data visualization is when we want to visualize our data in worksheet or even if this is pivot table. If I could reshare my screen again. Okay, so that's the one. Yep, so a simple Excel chart can say more than a sheet full of numbers here. So data visualization is a process of taking raw data and transforming it into graphs and charts and so on that explain the numbers and allow us to gain insights. So it will also change the way to make sense out of the value by visualizing the data with charts or graphs to discover the patterns as well as the trends. So by doing this, you can present your insights to your boss or your stakeholders with these hundreds and thousands of data in your spreadsheet with charts and graphs itself. So yes, we know that creating charts is pretty simple. That's definitely a simple stuff of that. But how do you determine which chart is best suited for your storytelling and insight sharing to your stakeholders? So first, you need to know first you need to surface a few questions here. So first, how many variables do you want to show in a single chart? Is that one or multiple? And how many items or data points you want to display for each of the variable? And how are you going to display your value? Will you be displaying your value over a period of time or a comparison by groups or whatnot? So we have a wide range of selections here in chart. So where's the insert chart is under this insert tab button. Okay, so under this insert tab button, you can see that there's a wide range of chart. There's a few charts for us to see here. There's a few options. So different charts can give you different insights. So for instance, like bar chart is good for comparison, like line chart, but it works better for like trends over the period. Scatter plot, for instance, are good for relationship and distributions, but bar chart can only show you like simple composition, like, but never for the comparison between the groups, between the variables. So thanks to Excel, you can see that if I hover over to the icons here, you can see the recommendations. So you can the recommendations listed here. So there's a descriptive box. You can, if I hover over to the bar chart, it says that you can use this chart to visualize or compare values across a few categories. Same goes to line chart and so on. So that's also one of the way for you to identify which chart you should use. So let's take an example for my data. So I want to see the proportion of my subcategory. So here I have my subcategory. I'll remove my year. So this is my subcategory. So if I want to know the proportion of my subcategory in this scenario, pie chart is the options. That is the choice. So I'll just select this pie chart. And there you go. So here you can change your chart title. For instance, I'll just put like subcategory. Subcategory, like profit by subcategory. Okay, so that is my my chart title. And let me remove the field list here. So here I could also check what information I want to put in here as the element. So of course I want to know my data labels. So I check the data labels. So that's a chart title, of course, as here. Data label, I can choose if I want the data to be labeled at the center of the chart, inside and outside and best fit, data call out or whatnot. So in this case, I'll just choose best fit. And I'll move up the title a little bit here. Okay, so this is the legend. I can choose if I want to place my legend on the right, top, left, bottom, or whatnot. So in this case, I'll just remain at the right column. All right, let me pull up a little bit more. So to display more legend here. Okay, so if I want to know the proportion of my subcategory, I can click on this value. And then if you realize there's this format data labels here, if I click on this bar chart label options like that, there's this label options to change my value. So in this case, I want to change my value to percentage rather than value. So I'll just uncheck this and show just the percentage. Okay, so as you can see here, this is my proportion and also giving me the percentage of which subcategories has the most profit. So I can see that the highest one is 14%. So this is, I think this is machines. Yep, that's the machines. Let me pull out a bit bigger. Oh, I could also do the data co-op if it is too complicated to see, like data co-op. Yep, so that's the machines. We have 14%. Okay, so if I want to compare the value between the subcategory, I'll use bar chart. So let me move this down a little bit further. So I'll use bar chart. So same, go to insert. I'll insert bar chart. That's the one. So I can also change my chart title, like sales by profit by subcategory, and insert more elements. I can even change my data value. So I want to look at my data labels here. Okay, if I want to change the label option, I could also change the label option. All right, so let me pull this down a little. So I'll just do a quick one. Okay, so the good thing of these pivot table and also this slicer here, if I select different slicer, if you realize that my pivot table will change, and because this table and chart is also reading my pivot table, so the value here will change as well. So if I want to know only the category for technology, then it will only change, and the data here will only show the proportion of your technology, which is phones, accessories, copiers, and also machines. So if I want to know just Kelantan, so I'll just filter Kelantan, Kuala Lumpur. If you realize that my chart, they are constantly changing depending on the criteria that I'm using here. Okay, so this is how we visualize our data with charts and graphs. So next I'll move on to quick analysis. So this will be the last function that we are sharing in this workshop. So let me move back to order. Okay, so I really want to introduce you this very useful function. So imagine that if your meeting starts in 15 minutes and you have just finished your data set, so you're ready to practice how you want to deliver your report, but then you remember that you still haven't made the charts that you needed for your presentation. So what can we do is that we can use this tool called Quick Analysis in Microsoft, which can be a lifesaver in times like this. So back to the raw data, for instance, I want to show the bar chart or the charts for my subcategory and sales. So if you realize that there's this button here, this is the quick analysis button. So if you click on this quick analysis button, you have a few options: formatting, charts, total, tables, and also spark lines. So if I want to create a chart out of these values I'm selecting here, I'll just click on any charts I want to use. So it will automatically generate the chart for you here. Okay. So I think in lieu of time, we do not have breakout room for this session. So you could try out the charts and also quick analysis on your own when you have time too. So as you explore the charts, you will see that actually there's a whole lot of features and customization within the charts you can also play around with. So, yep. Okay, so that's the end of the workshop. So let me stop sharing my Excel file.
Thanks, Vivian. Thanks for the workshop. I hope everyone benefit a lot, and I think facilitators and me myself also learn a lot from you. Thanks, Vivian, for your time. I think next one is we will get Waishin to share a bit on what's gonna happen next, right? Like after we know all the basics about Excel and all, what can we do more with Excel? And also, as a data analyst, we experience a lot on handling CSV file, also another one called Excel file. The Excel file that you are having right now is an Excel file, but then usually when you receive the file, it could be in another file called as a CSV. So Waishin is going to explain on this portion. Waishin, over to you. You're on mute, Waishin.
Okay, can you hear me and see my screen?
Yep, can.
Okay, we are running short of time, so I will just there will be no hands-on session. I will just show you how can we import CSV file. So what is CSV file? It's in a longer term, it's comma separated value text file. So you will sometimes receive a file that you download from a software or a dashboard in a CSV format. It's basically a text file that stores data in rows, and each of the values are separated by a separator called delimiter. So here I show you an example of a CSV. So from the box, we can see this data has one header row and one header and also 2 rows of data, and there are probably 4 columns called name, email, phone numbers, and address. And these columns are being separated by a comma, so it's called a comma separated file. So while comma is the most common delimiters, there are also common delimiters that you can see, such as a semicolon, or the data can be split by tab, or even things called pipe. So these are the delimiters that you can see in the CSV files. So as with any other data that you use in Excel, there's a limit. So in Excel, typically you can import up to 1 million row of data. Okay, in the following, I will show you how to import a CSV file into Excel. So there are 2 main ways. One is just import it directly by opening it in Excel. So I have examples of CSV file here. So you can see CSV files typically end with extension CSV. If I were to open it with Notepad, let's say, so you can see it's quite complicated, but you can see there's a pattern where each column is being split by a delimiter, and in this case, it's a comma. So this is how a CSV file looks like in a text file. Okay. So let's just direct import into Excel. So in a lot of situations, you can just double click and it will just open in an Excel file nicely for you. So what you can do is you can just start your data cleaning or even analysis or format as a table as you want, as such. Oops. Oops, my Excel is not responding. Technical error. Let me recover it. Okay, so that's the first scenario where you can just double click the CSV file and open it with Excel. In some situation, while your file cannot be automatically detect automatically by the Excel nicely, so you will see it will import it like every row that the data is clustered into one column. So in this case, you might have to use a function called text to column to split them into individual columns. So from here, you can select delimited. And our files are separated by a comma. So we can select, uncheck the tab and select comma. Click next. And for this one, data format, I would like to just put it as a default. Okay, sorry, I missed a step because I didn't select or. Okay, let me do it again. So you can select the first column, click text to column and delimited. Okay, next, and select comma, finish, and your files, your CSV files are being split into different columns. So this is one of the ways that you can read CSV file in Excel. The last method that I would like to share is we can import a text file by connecting to it using Power Query. So you might have heard of Power Query. If you are not, it's fine. So I can explain a little bit here. But in fact, Power Query is a very powerful function, even for my daily tasks, that you can use in Excel. So in short, Power Query, it's also called get and transform data in Excel 2016 and below. So you can, with this Power Query, we can import and connect to different external data. And then after that, we can transform and shape the data, such as you can remove columns, change data type, merge tables, or append tables that you want. And after that, you can load your query into Excel to create charts, tables, and reports. And if you have to refresh, if you have to update your data, then you can change the data source and do the refresh to make the data up to date. So I can quickly show you how to import CSV by connecting to it using Power Query. So I go back to my Excel. Under Data tab, so there's a Get and I'm using Excel 2016, by the way. So there's a Get and Transform session. So what I can do is I can select New Query from File, from CSV. And then I navigate to the CSV file that I want to import. Now they are establishing the connection. So you can see my data, that's a preview for my data, where my data is split by semicolon, it's automatically detected based on the first 200 row. So before I import it into Excel, I would like to do some changes, transformation. So I click Edit. So it will prompt me to a Power Query editor, where I can do different kind of transformations, merging of different files, or even additions of columns. So for instance, for order date, I would like to have a new column which only contains the year. So let's say I want to have a new column that says 2016. So what I can do is I go to Add Column and Date and go to Year. So add a new column with year at the end of the table. So I just move it next to my order date. So you can see what else the changes transformation I'm going to make. So for instance, I want to split the customer ID into two parts, where the first part contains the alphabet and second part contains the ID. And then I can just go to transform and split column by delimiter. And my delimiter is a dash. So I just put dash here and click OK. So you can see the ID is being split into 1 and 2. And next up is I want to round my sales fee numbers into 2 decimal point. Then I can click transform rounding into 2 decimal. And my profit, I would like to round it to 2 decimal point as well. Okay, so now I'm happy with my data. What I can do is I can go back to home and just load it into my Excel spreadsheet. So you can see my data is being loaded nicely. So I loaded around 2K of data. So Power Query is, so another thing that you can do from Power Query, like you can refresh the data. So in any situation where like you're clicking to say, I make some minor changes on the values inside the Excel file or the CSV file, I would like you to do the same steps, the same cleaning and splitting the data. So what you can do is you can go back to the query tools to edit the data source. So click on edit. So from here, we can change the data source here. So you can see it will have the path of the original data. So now I'd like to import the new updated data. What I can do is I just browse here and I just navigate to find the updated CSV file and click import. So it will automatically do all these steps for my news file. What I can do is I can refresh and close and load to the Excel. So you can see the number of rows changes because I updated to a new file. So here I demonstrate a little bit of the functionality, but in fact, the Power Query can do merging, appending data, and etc. So remember after you deal with all this doing formatting of the values, please remember to save it in Excel format. Because if you are saving in CSV format, it will lose all the formatting all the color and tables formatting that you use in Excel. So you can go ahead and save it as an Excel format. So I guess that's all for my sharing session on importing CSV. I'll pass it back to Brianna.
Thanks, Waishin. Yeah, thanks. Any questions that you guys might have for this portion? I think this is just a bit of insights from the data analyst when we are handling CSV file, and also just to expose a bit of exposure on the Power Query. So other than the normal on the daily BAU business as usual, when we are doing data analysis, we may not use a Power Query. But if let's say you are working on a huge data set and you require complex transformation of data, then you may consider using Power Query. Other than that, I think we all heard about VBA and also Macro as well. So you can explore this kind of functionality in Excel to help you in terms of further analyzing data. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all from the session, right? Before that, Waishin, we need your help to fleshing out the wrap-up deck. So I think to wrap up, thanks again, Vivian and Waishin, for the sharing. Right, I will post some of the details on how to get in touch with the speakers. Right, we have the LinkedIn for Vivian and the LinkedIn for Waishin. If you all have any questions about anything, you can just ping them. We also have a data Slack channel. I have a data Slack channel. Next page first. Data Slack channel whereby we create this channel to invite everyone to join us to learn data together. So moving forward, we will have plenty of workshops that is targeting to bring everyone through the data journey. Next one will be an SQL workshop. But if you guys want to have more Excel workshop, feel free to fill it up our survey form, which I have put out the QR code here. Please scan it and give us some feedback. And if you have any questions that you want to know, also please, if you have any workshop that you want to know more about like Excel and etc., also you can put it in the feedback form. So I'll leave the QR code here so that you all can scan it. I'll give you 1 minute to scan. Yeah. Then after that, we should move to a photo session before we close the chat. Okay, I think everyone has scanning. Can we go to the next slide, Vaishin, please? So if you can check, you can also check the chat group, right? I have posted up the link to join our Slack channel. You will need to join 2 channels first. Firstly, you need to click on the bit.ly link and get yourself an account to join our channel space. Then there will be 2 channels that you can join. One is a hashtag general. Each channel in Slack, they are actually classified as hashtag. So hashtag general is a general platform for WWCode, and the hashtag all things data are the data channel that we will be using it to discuss about all sorts of data stuff. So if you guys continue to explore on Excel or any sort of platform or tools, and you have any questions, you can always post it up in that channel, and we will also brainstorm and discuss about it. Yeah. So last agenda would be photo session. So can I get everyone to share their videos if you want, right? Then we will take a group photo together. What about the rest? Are you all going to share your screen, your video? Jenny, Ida, Judy, Surya, Doreen, Kevin. Okay, then I think we should take a photo now. Look at the screen. First one. Smile. Okay, hold on. We may need to take a couple more because I have a few. We have a lot of. Sorry. Anyone can help me take screen cap? I cannot see everyone in the same screen, right? Okay. Second one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think it's okay. A lot from here. Thanks, Vivian and Vaishin, for the sessions. Remember to fill up the survey form and let us know what sorts of other workshop that you would want to hear from us so that we can arrange on our side. Yep. So facilitators and speakers, can we stay back for a debrief? Thanks all. Have a good weekend.
Bye.